The great Zaloth Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds. From the cold moons of Rain to the burning deserts of Kor, their banners waved across the stars. No army had ever stopped them. No planet had ever said no. Their leader, Emperor Varric, stood before the grand map of the galaxy, his golden eyes shining with pride. His voice echoed in the hall. "One more world, my generals. One last victory before the celebration of glory. I want Earth." The chamber fell silent for a moment. "Earth?" one general asked carefully. "A small blue planet full of primitive humans. Hardly worth our attention," Varric smiled. "That is exactly why we will take it. A quick victory, a symbol of our endless power. Bring me their world and the galaxy will kneel." The generals bowed deeply. For the Empire. When the Zaloth fleet arrived in the Sol system, they expected fear. They expected desperate transmissions begging for mercy. Instead, they found nothing, no human ships, no defense lines, only a quiet planet surrounded by empty satellites and old stations. "Strange," muttered Admiral Corrin as he watched the hologram of Earth spinning slowly in the dark. "Maybe they ran away." His second officer laughed. "Humans are fragile. They probably surrendered before we even arrived, but then a signal came through, every screen flickered. The fleet's comms crackled with static, and then a calm human voice spoke in perfect galactic language. "You wanted war. You'll get minds you can't understand." The room went silent. Admiral Corrin frowned. "Is that a threat?" Another officer smirked. "More like a joke." But as the laughter echoed, a strange feeling spread through the ship. Systems glitched for a second. Lights dimmed. The navigation AI reported coordinates that no one had entered. The invasion began at dawn over Earth's northern continent. Thousands of alien dropships entered the atmosphere, glowing like falling stars. The first day seemed easy. Human military bases fell quickly. Cities went dark. The Empire celebrated. But then things began to change. Alien patrols started disappearing in small villages. Supply routes vanished overnight. Drones recorded shadows moving through smoke. But when soldiers went to investigate, there was no one there. One commander reported strange things. Soldiers hearing whispers through their helmets. Lights flickering, maps changing on their own. "Human tricks," the Emperor said when he heard the reports. "Ignore them. Push forward." But ignoring them was impossible. By the third day, fear began to spread through the Empire's troops. Every battle felt wrong. Humans never fought directly. They attacked the mind, not the body. An alien squad entered an empty town. Windows were shattered. Streets silent. Suddenly, a broadcast started on their helmets. Human voices repeating the same phrase again and again. "We are inside your head." The aliens fired at shadows, panic spreading like fire. When reinforcements arrived, they found the squad sitting in the street, alive but shaking, staring into space. Not one human bullet had been fired. In the control room of the Imperial flagship, the Emperor slammed his fist on the table. "What is happening down there?" Admiral Corrin hesitated. We don't understand, my lord. The humans seem to know our every move. They predict our attacks before we make them." Varric's voice rose like thunder. "Then change the plan." "We already did, sire." 5 times, the Emperor froze. "And each time?" They were waiting. In a dark command bunker on Earth, a group of human officers watched the alien fleet through a holographic screen. The leader, a woman with sharp gray eyes named Dr. Evelyn Cross, smiled softly. "They still think we're fighting with weapons," she said. "They still think this is war." Another officer nodded. "Should we push phase 2? Dr. Cross tapped a few buttons, sending encrypted signals across the planet. "Yes, let them feel confusion. Fear is faster than bullets." By the 5th day, the mighty Zaloth fleet began to lose control. Ships fired on each other after false readings. Troops refused to follow orders, convinced their commanders were human spies. Entire divisions vanished into forests and never came out. The humans had turned the battlefield into a maze of the mind. Emperor Varric's face twisted in anger as more reports arrived. "Half the fleet gone?" he shouted. "How? We have more firepower than 10 of their planets combined." Admiral Corrin swallowed hard. "It's not their weapons, my lord. It's something else. They're breaking us from inside." Varric leaned forward. "Explain." Before the Admiral could answer, a communication alert rang. "Incoming transmission from Earth." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Put it through." A woman's voice echoed through the hall. calm, cold. You came for glory. You'll leave with silence. The transmission ended. For a long time, no one spoke. The Emperor clenched his jaw.
Who are these humans?
Later, in a captured human city, Imperial soldiers dragged a trembling alien officer before him. The alien's armor was cracked, his eyes full of fear. Barrick leaned close. Speak, who are they? The officer's voice shook. They are not soldiers. They are something else, and what do you mean? The alien swallowed hard. They fight with the mind. They see us before we see them. You didn't start a war, my Emperor. He looked up, terrified. You walked into an experiment. The Emperor stepped back. Cold sweat on his skin. Outside the palace window, the skies of Earth burned with strange lights, human drones, broadcasting patterns no alien could understand. And from deep below the planet's surface, the next message was already preparing to send. Phase 2, begin. Under the ruins of old London, deep below the broken streets, a secret base hummed quietly. Few on Earth even knew it existed. Inside, glowing blue screens lined the walls, showing endless streams of alien communication, brainwave patterns, and battle reports. At the center of it all stood Dr. Evelyn Cross, calm, expressionless, and terrifyingly intelligent. She wasn't a general. She wasn't even military, but every soldier in that room looked at her with silent fear. She was the architect of Project Mindstorm, humanity's last hidden weapon. While the Zaloth Empire thought they were winning by destroying cities, Dr. Cross was building something else. Not bombs, not tanks. She was creating minds. Her program trained a special group of humans, men and women who didn't think like others. Their brains were sharp, unpredictable, and cold. Some called them geniuses. Others called them psychopaths. They were designed for one purpose: to win a war that could not be fought with weapons. The room's silence broke when Lieutenant Marcus Vale entered. His face was pale, eyes sharp. Doctor, the Empire's fleet is regrouping. They're planning another push toward the European sector. Dr. Cross didn't even look up. Good, let them try again. Marcus frowned. Our ground defenses are weak. They could destroy the whole continent. Now she looked at him, calm but cutting. They won't reach that far. By the time they land, they won't even trust each other. Her words made the younger officers exchange nervous glances. No one really understood how her plan worked. They just saw results. Every time the Empire attacked, something invisible struck back. Confusion, paranoia, madness. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Karan sat inside his command ship, the Varicon's Fist. He watched as his fleet floated in uneasy formation. His voice was sharp with anger. I want a full report, he barked. Why are my troops shooting each other? A nervous technician replied, Sir, our communications have been compromised. Someone is sending fake commands through our own channels. We can't tell which orders are real anymore. Corin's fist slammed the console. It's human sabotage. Find the source. They tried, and failed. Every time they traced a signal, it disappeared. Every time they fixed one system, 3 more failed. The humans were everywhere and nowhere at once. Back on Earth, deep in the base, Dr. Cross spoke to her team. Project Mindstorm is now fully active. Phase 2 begins. She pressed a button on the table. Across the screens, 100 faces appeared. The Mindstorm operatives. Each had a number, not a name. Each was trained in mental warfare, experts in deception, fear, and manipulation. They didn't need weapons. They needed only words, sound, and data. Operative 12 spoke first, his voice calm and detached. Target fleet selected, beginning infiltration through their Neuralink AI systems. Operative 6 smiled slightly. I'll handle psychological disruption among their commanders. A few wrong dreams can ruin an army. Dr. Cross nodded once. Remember, don't destroy them. Confuse them. Break their unity. Fear is our ally. Hours later in space, the first signs appeared. Alien officers began reporting strange dreams. Nightmares of human eyes watching them from the dark. Some soldiers heard whispers through their helmets saying, "We see you." Computers started generating human symbols. Machines refused to obey commands. The Empire's communication AI, built to handle millions of signals, suddenly began muttering in human language. "Fear me, child of Varric. I am your reflection." The technicians panicked. It's impossible. Machines can't dream. But now they did. Admiral Corin stood before his bridge crew trying to hold the line. This is illusion, tricks. Humans cannot reach us here. But even as he shouted, the holographic map on the floor flickered, showing human faces for a second before returning to normal. He turned to his second officer. Send the Iron Legion. End this. The officer nodded quickly, unaware that behind his eyes, a small implant was already glowing faint blue. Human technology had hijacked his mind. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Mindstorm operatives worked in total silence. Each sat in an isolated chamber, their minds linked to machines. They didn't blend. The galaxy burned with confusion. Everywhere the Zaloth Empire looked, their systems were falling apart. Fleets turning against each other, soldiers losing control, machines whispering in human voices. For the first time in history, the Empire tasted fear. In the great throne hall on Zaloth Prime, Emperor Varric stood before his war council. His voice was full of anger and humiliation. They are only humans, he roared. Fragile, short-lived creatures from a dying world, and yet they have made the Empire tremble? His generals stayed silent. None dared to look into his eyes. Finally, one spoke. My Emperor, we believe their attacks come not from power, but from the mind. They call it psychological warfare. Varric turned slowly. Then we will answer with fire. He raised his hand. Prepare the Iron Legion. Let them show Earth what glory truly means. The chamber echoed with the sound of armor striking the floor. The most feared fleet in the Empire, hundreds of warships, black as night and armed with planet-crushing cannons, was on its way to Earth. When the Iron Legion reached the edge of the Sol system, space itself seemed to shake. 1,000 engines burned blue in the dark, surrounding the small blue planet below. Target locked, said Admiral Vexar, the commander of the Legion. By the Emperor's command, we will erase Earth from the stars. The crew cheered. The humiliation of the last defeat would end here. But as the ships prepared to fire, something strange happened. All communication screens flickered. Static hissed across every channel. Then silence, no music, no orders. Just silence. Admiral Vexar frowned. Report. Sir, said a technician nervously. The targeting systems just stopped responding. Then reboot them. Vexar snapped. We did, sir. But the systems. They say we're already firing. What? A tremor passed through the ship. Not from attack, but from something deeper, something inside. Lights dimmed, control panels glowed red, and then a human voice spoke through the speakers. Welcome to the experiment. Every alien froze. The Iron Legion's fleet began to break apart. Not by weapon fire, but by chaos. One ship reported seeing hundreds of human ships on their radar. Another claimed the planet below was gone. None of it was true. The humans hadn't fired a single shot. Inside the ships, confusion spread like wildfire. Commanders shouted conflicting orders. AI units refused to obey, claiming, humans are in command now. Some ships opened fire on their own allies. Others tried to flee, only to find their navigation locked on a collision course. In less than an hour, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy had turned into a storm of madness. Back on Earth, deep below the surface, Dr. Evelyn Cross watched the chaos unfold on a holographic map. Her cold gray eyes reflected the red dots of alien ships vanishing one by one. Lieutenant Marcus Vale stood beside her, pale and silent. Doctor, they're destroying themselves. Dr. Cross's lips curved slightly. As expected, Marcus swallowed. You mean you did this? She nodded. They thought we would fight their war. We taught them to fight ours, but how? By giving them what they wanted most, she said softly. Glory. Above Earth, Admiral Vexar tried to regain control. He screamed into the comms, turn off all external links. Cut the signal now! But the bridge crew hesitated. Some of them stared blankly at the walls, whispering to themselves. One officer turned to him slowly, his eyes glowing faint blue. Sir, they're here. Before Vexar could respond, the officer grabbed his weapon and fired. The bridge filled with screams. The Admiral crawled toward the control console, pressing every emergency shutdown key he knew. But the screen only showed one sentence. You asked for glory. You will drown in it. The lights went out. For 3 long days, the Iron Legion's fleet drifted in chaos. Some ships vanished completely, swallowed by gravity wells they didn't see. Others exploded from the inside, victims of their own paranoia. The Empire's proudest warriors had become ghosts, trapped in a war they couldn't understand. When word reached Emperor Varric, His fury shook the palace. He stood before his generals once more, his golden eyes burning. "How?" he demanded. "How can an entire fleet disappear without a single enemy weapon?" No one answered. Finally, an intelligence officer stepped forward. "My Emperor, we recovered fragments of a transmission before the fleet went silent. It was human." Varric leaned closer. "Play it." The officer hesitated, then pressed the control. The room filled with a calm human voice, female, confident, cold. "You built a galaxy on fear. Now feel what you created. The mind is the real battlefield." The recording ended. Varric's hand trembled slightly as he gripped his staff. "Find her, this—" "Dr. Cross, I want her alive." The officer bowed. "At once, my lord." But inside, even he knew, it was already too late. In a secret lab on Earth, Dr. Cross spoke with her team. The room glowed with the soft light of monitors showing alien panic across the stars. "Phase 3 is ready," one scientist reported. "We can spread the signal through their entire empire." Marcus looked uneasy. "If we do that, billions will lose their minds. Civilians too." Dr. Cross didn't blink. "They wanted to see what happens when you challenge humanity. Let them see it." He stepped closer. "You're becoming what they said we were, monsters." Dr. Cross's voice was quiet but sharp. "No, Lieutenant. We are survivors. Monsters are those who come to our world and call it theirs." In the Outer Rim, a lone Zaloth scout ship approached the remains of the Iron Legion. What they found made their blood run cold. Thousands of ships floated silently. No explosions, no signs of battle. Just empty hulls drifting in space. When they boarded one, the halls were covered in strange symbols, human writing carved into metal. The words read, "Glory ends where fear begins." The scout captain turned to his crew. "What happened here?" From the darkness, a faint voice replied. Not human, not alien, just a whisper through the ship's comms. "The experiment continues." The crew ran back to their shuttle, terrified. None spoke during the journey home. On Earth, Dr. Cross stood before a giant screen showing the silent remains of the fleet. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she whispered almost to herself, "The mind is the weapon. Always has been." Marcus stood beside her, eyes filled with doubt. "And when the Empire falls?" "What then?" She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Then we find the next one." The room fell quiet. Only the hum of machines filled the air. Machines still running calculations, still sending invisible signals into the stars. Far across the galaxy, Emperor Varric stood at his palace window, watching his empire crumble. Every day more of his fleets went silent. Every hour more worlds fell into madness, and in his dream, he began to hear voices, soft human whispers repeating the same phrase again and again. "You wanted glory. You found the mind." Varric woke each night drenched in sweat, the echoes still in his head. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. And for a brief second, it wasn't his own face staring back. It was hers, Dr. Evelyn Cross, smiling. The Empire's grand armies were breaking apart. The once proud Zaloth legions, machines of war that had crushed countless worlds, now trembled whenever they heard the name human. Emperor Varric stood in his war room, surrounded by holographic maps filled with red marks, human traps, ambush zones, and missing fleets. "How can this be?" he shouted. "They are few. They are weak. Why do they keep winning?" No one answered. His generals stared down in silence. None of them dared to meet his eyes. Finally, General Corrin stepped forward. "Your Majesty, it's not their weapons. It's their minds. They think like predators. They study us, then turn our strength against us." Varric slammed his hand on the control panel. "Then find their leader. Whoever commands them, bring me his head." But there was no single leader. Humans were everywhere, scattered in the shadows of conquered cities, inside captured bases, even among the Empire's own soldiers. They spread confusion like a virus. In the ruins of old New York, the human resistance met in silence. The flicker of a broken light showed their faces, tired, dirty, but still smiling. Captain Mara stood over a hologram of the Empire's main command station. "They think we'll strike the center," she said quietly. "So we'll strike their minds first." The group exchanged looks. "How?" asked a young soldier. She smiled. "We make them see what isn't there." The next day, every Imperial soldier on Earth received a strange message through their helmets. A calm human voice whispered, "You are not safe." "We are behind you," panic spread. Units began firing at shadows, shooting their own men. Then came explosions, but not real ones. The humans used sound decoys and mirrored projections. The Empire's scanners showed whole armies that didn't exist. From his flagship, Varric watched the chaos unfold. "What is this madness?" he shouted. "Our sensors are failing." His technicians tried to explain. "It's not failure, sire. It's interference." "Human interference," Varric turned sharply. "How can a species so weak control my systems?" No one answered. The silence was heavier than ever. Meanwhile, Captain Mara and her team moved through the ruins. She carried a small device shaped like a cube, the mirror box. It was human-made, designed to bend signals and twist enemy perception. "This one," she said, "goes right into their communication hub." The team snuck into an Imperial base disguised as workers. They passed alien guards without raising suspicion. At the right moment, Mara dropped the device into a console. A low hum filled the air. Within seconds, every Imperial monitor began showing false images. Entire human armies surrounding their bases, fleets rising from... Emperor Varric had never known fear. For decades, he ruled the Zaloth Empire with fire and steel. Worlds burned under his command. Species bowed at his feet. But now, for the first time, he felt something he could not crush. Doubt. His armies had the power, the numbers, the ships. Yet they were losing to a small blue world that fought with shadows and silence. Every report that reached his throne told the same story. Humans were unpredictable, invisible, and unstoppable. He stared at the burning map of Earth and whispered, "They are not fighting us. They are studying us." "Your Majesty," General Corrin said carefully, "the fleets are refusing orders. The troops think ghosts are among them. We've lost control of half the invasion force." Varric turned slowly. His eyes glowed red with fury. "Then we remind them who commands the galaxy. If humans fight with minds, we fight with fear." He activated a sealed chamber, Project Eclipse. Inside were weapons forbidden even in the Empire. Devices built to break thoughts, twist emotions, and turn sanity into chaos. Corrin stepped back in horror. "Those were banned by the Council. Even our own cannot survive their use." Varric smiled darkly. "Then perhaps it's time to show these humans what true madness looks like." The first eclipse wave hit Earth 3 days later. A pulse of psychic energy rolled across the planet, unseen but powerful. It whispered into minds, creating nightmares that felt real. Humans began seeing things, flashes of light, shadows with no bodies, whispers calling their names. Some screamed. Some froze in terror, but then something unexpected happened. The humans didn't fall apart. They adapted. Captain Mara stood on the rooftop of a broken skyscraper, her head pounding from the pulse. Her team trembled, fighting hallucinations. "It's inside our heads," shouted a soldier. Mara clenched her fists. "Then we fight inside our heads." She reached into her belt and pulled out a small injector, the neural stabilizer. The humans had prepared for this. They had studied the Empire's psionic tech and built a defense, half medicine, half madness. When the injector hit, her thoughts cleared, but her emotions sharpened. Anger, pain, focus, all mixed into something fierce and unstoppable. "Listen to me," she shouted to her squad. "They're trying to break our minds. Let's break theirs first." Meanwhile, in orbit, the Eclipse control ship received strange readings. Instead of weakening, human neural signals were growing stronger. A technician shouted, "They're feeding off the wave, sire." "Their brain activity is impossible," Varric snapped. "No species can adapt that fast." But it was true. The more humans were attacked, the more they learned how to fight back mentally. Their brains formed patterns to block psychic energy, and even reflect it. Now, alien soldiers began collapsing, screaming from invisible pain. The psychic pulse had turned on them. Back on Earth, Mara and her team pushed forward through chaos. Every Imperial soldier they faced looked broken, eyes empty, hands shaking. The human counterwave had begun. "We're in their systems," said her engineer, tapping the terminal. "If we send the signal now, it'll bounce through their entire network." Mara nodded. "Do it." A low hum spread through the atmosphere. It wasn't sound, it was thought. Every human on Earth, connected by will and anger, sent a single message into the Empire's minds. "You wanted glory. You'll remember fear." On the Emperor's throne ship, alarm screamed. The psychic storm hit the command deck like fire. Varric clutched his head as human thoughts filled his mind. Memories of war, loss and rage. He saw through their eyes, the burning of their cities, the cries of their children, the faces of soldiers who had nothing left to lose. He screamed, "Get them out of my head," but there was no escape. The humans had turned his own weapon into a mirror. Now he was trapped inside their collective fury. He saw Captain Mara standing in the ruins below, staring up at the sky. Her voice echoed through the psychic storm. "You wanted to understand us, Emperor. Now live what you created." Varric fell to his knees. Around him, the control room flickered, lights failing. The fleet outside tore itself apart. Ships colliding, weapons misfiring, chaos everywhere. General Corrin tried to drag the Emperor away. "We must retreat, sire." Varric's voice trembled. "Retreat? From them?" He looked out into the burning void. "They fight like demons. They think like gods." On Earth, the sky began to clear. The psychic storm faded slowly, leaving silence behind. Mara watched the alien fleet crumble. "Is it over?" someone asked. She didn't answer. Her gaze stayed fixed on the stars. "They'll come back," she whispered. "Empires always do. But next time, they'll remember what minds can do." High above, the Emperor's flagship drifted powerless. In the darkness of his shattered command room, Varric whispered one final sentence, half fear, half awe. "They are not warriors. They are nightmares wearing human faces." War was over. The skies above Earth were quiet for the first time in months. The great Zaloth fleet, once feared across 1,000 worlds, now floated in silence, broken and burning. From the ruins below, the humans watched the fires fade. They had won. But it didn't feel like victory. Captain Mara stood among the ruins of New York, her uniform torn, her eyes distant. Around her, the survivors worked in silence, clearing wreckage, treating the wounded, burying the fallen. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "We survived. But what have we become?" In orbit, what remained of the Zaloth fleet drifted helplessly. Inside the Emperor's throne ship, General Corrin moved through the wreckage, searching for his master. He found Emperor Varric sitting on the cold floor, staring at nothing. His once golden armor was cracked, his crown broken. His voice was barely a whisper. "They didn't just destroy us, Corrin," he said. "They infected us." Every soldier hears their voices. Every mind carries their fear. Corrin bowed his head. "Shall I prepare the retreat, sire?" Varric looked up, eyes hollow. "Retreat? From what? You cannot retreat from something that already lives inside you." He turned his gaze toward Earth, small, blue, and shining. That world should have been easy prey. Instead, it made monsters of us all. Weeks later, across the galaxy, the shock spread. The Zaloth Empire, the unbreakable conquerors, had been defeated by a single planet. Other species whispered in disbelief. Some called it impossible. Some called it a miracle. But those who had seen the battle called it something else entirely. They called it the War of Minds. On Earth, humanity rebuilt. Cities were scarred, oceans poisoned, and skies dim with smoke. Yet there was hope. In an underground base, Captain Mara met with the surviving leaders. The hologram of the Emperor's fallen flagship flickered before them. "We ended the invasion," one general said. "The Empire is collapsing. Their worlds are rebelling." Mara didn't smile. "It's not over. We didn't just fight their ships. We changed something deeper." She looked around the table. "We broke an empire's belief that fear rules the galaxy. Now the galaxy fears us." A young officer asked quietly, "Shouldn't that be good?" Mara's eyes darkened. "Maybe. Or maybe it means we become what they feared most." Far away in the ruins of the Zaloth capital, strange things began to happen. Soldiers spoke of hearing human voices in their dreams. Commanders froze mid-sentence, eyes blank, whispering Earth's message. "You wanted glory. You'll remember fear." The Empire's own machines turned against them, following false orders that didn't exist. Psychic echoes, remnants of humanity's mental assault, still haunted their systems. The humans hadn't meant to do it, but their final counterattack had left a mark on the galaxy itself. Their thoughts still echoed across the void. Captain Mara stood alone by the sea one night, listening to the waves. The wind carried faint static, the leftover whispers of the war. She could almost hear the Emperor's last words. "They are not warriors. They are nightmares wearing human faces." She closed her eyes. He wasn't wrong. Humans had discovered something terrible within themselves. an ability to fight not with weapons but with thought, madness, and willpower. And once awakened, it could never truly sleep again. A ship approached behind her. Commander Jalen, her second-in-command, stepped out. "They're asking for you, Captain," he said. "The Council wants to form a new defense fleet. They say the galaxy will come for revenge." Mara didn't turn around. "Then let them come. We'll be ready," he hesitated. "And if they don't?" She finally looked at him. Her eyes were calm but cold. "Then maybe we'll go to them." Jalen frowned. "You mean invade?" "Not to conquer," Mara said softly. "To remind them. Humanity isn't something you invade. It's something you survive." Later that night, she walked through the ruined streets. Children played among wrecked alien machines. The people were rebuilding, laughing again, but something in their laughter felt changed, sharper, older. She realized Earth would never be the same. Neither would the stars, because now the galaxy knew humans were not just soldiers. They were strategists, survivors, and something far more dangerous, minds that refused to break. In the dark reaches of space, the remnants of the Empire drifted silently. Inside one ruined ship, a small light blinked on, a distress beacon. But instead of a call for help, it carried a message that repeated endlessly across the void. "This is the Zaloth Empire. Warning all who hear this, never go to Earth." And on that quiet planet, under a sky still scarred by war, Captain Mara whispered to herself as the dawn rose. "They wanted glory. We gave them a lesson. Now the galaxy knows what happens when you fight the human mind."